So we continue with section 4C, savings and investments. In this video, we'll do problems 4, 5, and 6 from the worksheet. We'll discuss different types of investments such as stocks and bonds, in addition to doing a problem once again on monthly payments and calculation of the monthly payment given the accumulated amount. So we have one more problem of the type that we've done in the previous video. How much money should you deposit at the end of each month? So that immediately tells us that it is a type of account where we are putting in payments every month. So it's a periodic payment. So based on that, you need to substitute numbers into the correct formula. So the annual percentage rate is given. The total accumulated amount is 4 million, and the amount of time that you're going to invest in this account is 45 years. So what is the monthly payment? So what is P? So based on that, we use the formula for P. And since we know all the other numbers, we plug in all the other numbers, enter all the numbers into the calculator using parentheses. And in your particular calculator, if you need to put parentheses around the exponent, you can do that. Hit the enter button once and get the periodic payment 640.75. So I suggest you enter these numbers into your calculator. Make sure you're getting the right answer. Once again, we're asked to figure out how much of the accumulated amount of $4 million is interest. So the accumulated amount is what we put into the account plus the interest that gets added. So if we subtract our payments from that, the total amount in payments, we get the total amount that we earn in interest. How do we figure out the total amount that we've put into the account in the form of payments? So a monthly payment of $640.75. So that's in a month. In a year, since we are going to have 12 payments, so the total amount that we invest in the account in a year is 640.75 times 12. But we're going to keep this account going for 45 years. So we multiply that with 45 to give us the total amount that we've invested into the account. And that is what we substitute here. So the total amount of money that's accumulated minus the total amount of money in the form of payments, the balance or the difference is the amount of money that we've earned in interest. In any sort of investment, we're always interested in certain numbers. And one of the numbers we're interested in is what is the total return on this investment? So the way we calculate the total return on the investment is by taking the new value, which is the final value, minus the starting principal, and divided by the starting principal times 100%. So this is a number of interest. So we're always interested in figuring out what the return on our investment is. One way of calculating that is by figuring out the total return. Another important number that we're interested in is the annual return. So what is the annual percentage yield that would give us the overall growth in the given amount of time? So basically, what is the simple interest rate that would give us the exact same accumulated amount in a certain number of time, which is t years or y years? So this really should have been t years. And if we call the time as y, then that would be y years. So this should have been t. So this is our annual return. We get it as a decimal, and if we multiply that with 100%, as we've discussed before, that gives us the answer in a percentage. Now, another type of investment of money, and we've seen different types of investments so far in sections 4B and 4C. So another type of investment is investment in the form of stocks. So if a company needs money for some reason, then what they do is they raise that money or that amount of money that they need in the form of issuing shares. So basically, what they do is sell a piece of the company to the person who wants to invest the money. So a person who makes that sort of investment of money by buying shares becomes a shareholder of the company. So basically, a shareholder is the owner of a piece of that company. Now, how do we make money in this sort of investments? As you all know, shares and stocks are traded in the stock market, and you can sell the shares at any time for a profit or loss depending on the price of the share on that particular day. So usually you buy the stocks, keep it, and maybe sell it on a day that the stock price is higher, so that way you make a profit. But sometimes when we need the money, we might even have to sell it at a loss, um, just to get the money back so we can use it for something that we need. So that is how stocks work. Basically, buying a piece of the company and becoming a shareholder. Now, another way in which uh, an institution would raise money is by selling bonds. So, what is a bond? You buy a bond from the company for a certain amount of money in the promise that in future they'll give you an amount that is greater. And how does this amount become greater? Because they're adding interest to the amount that you've invested in buying the bond. So when you buy a bond, you're basically giving the company a certain amount of money, and in future, what they do is they return the amount of money that you gave them, plus add a simple interest amount to that particular um, amount that you invested. So the amount of money that you pay to buy this bond from the company is called the face value of the company. Plus, they add the interest at a certain simple interest rate. So, for a bond, the simple interest rate is called the coupon rate. And at a later date, they give you the face value plus the interest, which is the coupon rate, um, uh, plus the interest, which is calculated using the coupon rate. So again, as always, we're interested in what is the amount of money that we're making in this particular investment. So current yield is a term that is used. So the current yield has a formula, annual interest payment. So what is the interest payment in a year? It's a dollar amount divided by the current price of the bond, and that is a dollar amount. So that would give us the current yield of that particular bond. So it's a way of calculating our return on investment. So in the next two problems, we calculate the returns on investments. So you pay eight $8,000 for a municipal bond. So you buy a bond. So the face value of the bond is $8,000. When it matures after 20 years, so you keep the bond for 20 years, you receive $12,500. That's how you make the money. And what you earn, the extra amount of money that you earn, is the interest. Find the total returns and the annual return. So these are two different ways of calculating returns on investment. So all we have to do is use the formulas for total return and annual return. And in each case, we need to know certain terminology. So what is the new value? It is the final value of the bond. That is the amount that we pay for the bond plus the interest. So that is the new value of the bond minus the starting principal, which is the amount that you pay for the bond, which is also called the face value. So the difference is in the numerator, that is new value minus the start value, which is really the amount that you've earned in interest in 20 years. We divide that by the start value and multiply it with 100%. So we are basically plugging in numbers into a formula for total return. And when we do the calculations, we see that the total return is 56.25%. Now, what is the annual return? It's just another way of calculating our return on investment. We take the formula A over P to the, and this is an exponent, remember, to the 1 over Y, which is the time, Y is the time in years, minus 1. So A is the accumulated amount. So if you invest a certain amount of money, which is $8,000, which is your principal, which is P, a lump sum amount, at the end of how many years is that? 20 years, we receive a payment of $12,500, which is really our accumulated amount because the interest is added on to the, and the exponent is 1 over 20, and then you subtract 1 from that quantity. So when you enter all this carefully into your calculator, make sure you're using parentheses, you get 0.0226, and multiplying that by 100% gives us 2.26%. So we needed to find the total and annual returns, but all we have to do is write down the formulas for total and annual returns and plug in the numbers. You just need to know what the terms mean so you can plug in the right numbers. Now the next problem, again very similar. Again, it's a bond. So 5 years after paying 5,000 for shares, so it's not a bond, it is buying in shares. So it's a different sort of investment. So for any investment, we can figure out a return on investment in two different ways. One is the total return and the other is the annual return. So the amount that you put in is your starting value, which is also called P, and the amount that you get at the end of 5 years is $3,000. So let's see what the total returns are. So the total returns formula is the interest earned, which is the new value minus the start value divided by the start value times 100%. So we plug in all the numbers. The numerator is the interest earned. Now, unfortunately here, you sell the share at a loss, right? So you didn't earn anything. In fact, you lost some money, and that's what this negative sign tells us. So it's negative 2,000 over 5,000 times 100%. So your total return was a negative 40%. So sometimes this happens when you have to sell the shares for some reason or the other. You might have to sell it at a loss, and in this case, the loss is pretty big. It's negative. It's 40% loss, which is a total return of negative 40%. Now, what is the annual return on this investment? Just a different way of calculating the return on investment. So here we didn't get much of returns. It was a loss. But anyway, we can do the calculations. A over P to the 1 over Y minus 1. So that is the formula. Just plug in the numbers. A is the accumulated amount, which is really your final amount. It was not much of an accumulation. It was the value of your shares went down. But whatever that is, that final value for which you sold it would be your accumulated amount, which is really, unfortunately, less than the amount that you put into the investment of the shares. So 3,000 over 5,000 to the 1/5 minus 1, and that gives us negative 9.71%. So the calculations give us negative 0.0971, but when we multiply it with 100%, we get negative 9.71%.